Map number 1 here then, of this best of 3 team match. Heavy Rain is gonna be the host of it. And spawning down in the bottom right hand position, representing Axiom Esports, none other than Ryung. And his opponent, to the top left, the blue Zerg player. He represents Czechs. It's Mango. So, Mango versus Ryung. This should be an awesome series. I'm looking forward to it. A little bit of TvZ is always exciting times. And, yeah. I'm hoping that it's all going to be going really nice and good. Anyway, not too much else to talk about at the moment. We've just got Ryung currently getting down a supply depot there at his ramp. Wait to see whether he goes for something like a CC first, or whether he's going to go for a Reaper expand. Those are the two main builds that we typically see come out of Terran players up against Zerg. And that barracks coming down nice and early does suggest that it's going to be the Reaper way. He's also got a SCV rallied up to go to the guys that are ready to start the gas. Meanwhile, up on Melon's side, sorry, Mango's side, why do I keep saying Melon? I've got melons on the brain. Anyway, Mango's side, he's just sitting here, going into a spawning pool first, so just playing it nice and safe. This Overlord is keeping a good bit of vision, making sure that there's no sneaky bunkers trying to come down or anything that could end this game a little bit quicker than Mango really wants it to happen. So, just keeping a cool little eye on everything that is happening. We should be seeing an expansion come down relatively soon out of Mango. Meanwhile, over on Ryung's side, he's got his gas, his barracks is about to finish, and that should signal the start of a Reaper. So, Reaper should start up any second. There we go. Heavy Rain is a really good map for Reapers. There's a good amount of cliff area that you can really utilize well as a Terran player, just to come in and harass. Likely follow-ups to this are kind of two main parts. It could be just one Reaper for scouting, but also it could be two Reapers, which usually will then transition into being joined by 4 Hellions. And that's a really strong opening for Terran players, because the Reapers are able to tank up a lot of damage because of their ability to regenerate health quickly. And as such, they can actually pick off Queens and Lings very, very effectively. Ryung though, he's just going to be chucking down his command center, keeping things looking nice and safe, and adding on a reactor. So it's just the one Reaper at the moment, nothing too crazy. Meanwhile though, if we take a quick peek over at what Mango's doing, well, he is just getting down a Roach Run, which means that he's going to have Roaches out nice and early to try and deal with this Reaper and any potential follow-up. Roaches deal very well with Reapers because Reaper's damage against them is incredibly low. With pretty high burst, actually, Roaches can snipe down a Reaper before a Terran player is able to pull it away. Quick little bouncing in and out, just trying to keep a close eye on anything that could be coming down. Really, the Terran player is going to be looking mostly towards how much gas there's being mined and how many drones are currently mining it. Especially after seeing... Oh, actually, no, we didn't see the Roach Warren. Okay, so these Roaches are going to be a bit of a surprise coming down to Ryung now. He's not going to know that they're there. That means that he hasn't actually really got much out to defend with. He's switching over this barracks and factory, so he can utilize the reactor on the factory itself. And this is gonna be pretty interesting because there's nothing really to defend with. And while there are only 3 Roaches, that's still a little bit scary. That Reaper though, gonna buy a bit of time, utilizing the map to bounce up and down this little bit of cliff. Shooting at those Roaches in the Valley of Death, but nothing is really dying, so should be all fine. Still the Roaches though, going to be coming forward. The Overlord granting vision. Of course that Overlord should be on high ground, but this is a bit of an interesting bit of high ground where it doesn't always work. But now, forward come these Roaches. There's a bunker coming up. We're realizing that actually he needs to be a bit careful here. It's delaying mining from the natural base, but to be honest, it's probably not going to do too much else. The bunker will mean that this wall off is completely safe. The Overlord can be used to grant high ground vision, but the bunker will outrange these Roaches. One SCV gets taken down, a Marine dies too. This is a good little bit of early damage. The second Marine will fall, but with a Marauder now on the field, the Roach is not going to have too much fun. 3 Roaches though, 2 workers in the Marine have been taken out. And if we look at the resources lost, only 150 more resources lost by Mango compared to Ryung. Ryung though, he's now moving across the map, going to be trying to harass a little bit with these Hellions. And unfortunately, there aren't any Roaches down to defend against this. There are, though, 8 Zerglings coming out. They should help. The 2 Queens are there, and a Spine Crawler is in production. Ryung going to be trying to find a good little way to poke and prod it. Having to wait, though. For the moment, he's just keeping a safe distance. Doesn't want to overcommit. There's only 4 Hellions here. The thing that Ryung's really focusing on at the moment is the fact that he's got his 3rd CC coming up, and he's also going to be going into Banshees. We can see that a tech lab has been powered by the barracks early on, so the starport can immediately begin that Banshee production. Zergling speed about to hit into effect pretty soon, and once that's come in, these Hellions are going to be slightly more vulnerable, especially on creep. But for the moment, they're doing their job. They're denying the 3rd hatchery. And that's really important that Ryung continues to do that, because by denying the 3rd hatch, his own 3rd CC is going to be even more of an advantage. Quick move in now of Lings, and we've got the double armory coming out, so this is definitely going to be a mech build now, coming out from the Terran player representing Axiom. And can the Jex player, Mango, do anything about it? He needs a lot of roaches, and probably Roach Hydra generally is the best way to deal with this. And what he's got to do is identify that this is what's coming fairly quick. He does have a couple of Lings coming through. He's going to see that there's a good number of Hellions. And he's also sacrificing in an Overlord, so he immediately spots that, okay, a starport is done, but unfortunately, the first Banshee's already heading across the map. Spore Crawlers, though, should get started nice and fast, and as long as they're in position, this one Banshee isn't too threatening. A second Banshee is coming out, though. That's going to be seen as well. The double armory hasn't yet been spotted, but the second factory has been. Considering there's a second and now 3rd factory all in production, this should give Mango enough information to be able to deduce that, okay, my opponent, he's definitely going mech. You don't build 3 factories and only a single barracks unless you're going mech generally. I say generally, unless you are going mech. It's always unless you're going mech. So, 18 Lings coming out. We've got the 1-1 melee upgrades still coming through. Now, the reason these melee upgrades aren't ideal is because there's going to be so many Hellions, as we've already got now. And Lings against Hellions isn't the best trade. The Spire is quite a cool idea, because if Ryung doesn't overcommit, or doesn't actually get out any Thors, he's going to be incredibly limited in his anti-air. These Hellions taking a little bit of damage. One has gone down, the rest getting a bit low, but those Zerglings get roasted. Nice little barbecue there on the ramp. And the Hellions will fall back. They got a nice bit of damage down. And by picking off those Lings, it's going to mean that the lava has to be spent to resupply them. Over though, at Ryung's base, he's got his 3rd up and running. He's taking the 5th and 6th gases. And we've also got a couple of Vikings now out on the field, as well as a Thor coming through. If we take a look at his vision though, he hasn't actually seen the fact that there's a Spire coming down. So he's playing somewhat blind that there is going to be Mutalisks. But it does still mean though that it should be a good composition to at least hold off the early numbers of Mutas. Later on, if there is a big flock of Mutalisks, these Vikings alone aren't going to be enough to stop it. But with the Thor already coming out, well, the Thor is going to be enough to really put an end to Mutas. And that's because of the splash damage it does. A couple of Banshees now, just backing on out. They racked up to 3 kills, which is nice. Scan also being used here now by Ryung. I don't believe he's actually seen anything too critical. He has seen the Spire. Okay, so he knows that that's down. Knows the Mutalisks are an option. And that's why additional Thors are now being produced. Just playing nice and safe up against that. Good to see that road speed is about to finish up here for Mango. This is going to give him a good way to start dealing with mech. Roaches really are the centerpiece of a Zerg composition up against the meching Terran. And that's because they need to be able to tank up the Hellion fire. Tanks do pretty much put an end to roaches, especially if there's a sizable number of them, but Thor Hellion is very vulnerable to a lot of roaches. The Mutalisks, one goes down, the second one gets critically low. These Vikings doing a good job. I think a second Muta definitely did die there, so that was some nice control coming out there from the Axiom player. He's also getting down a 4th CC, but this is a bit later than the 4th hatchery that Mango's getting. This means that Mango is going to be staying pretty much level pegging in the economy. He just needs to be careful with these Mutalisks. Big hit of damage comes through. 2 more Mutas die. The Vikings definitely doing their work nicely. But the Roach is now starting to come out, and this could be more problematic for Ryung. Because Ryung, he doesn't yet have any tanks. His first tank is only just now in production, and that's while more Thors are still coming through. Roaches are really good against Thors. So Ryung needs to make sure that he gets out a couple more. Hellions trying to harass through now towards the natural base. Some trying to slip through. 4 managed to make it away, and they are going to get a couple of drone kills, but Roaches and Mutalisks very good at dealing with those Hellions. Cut out a lot of them, but still 12 workers in total have been killed this game. The Mutaflock is now up to 10. We've got the Infestation pick coming down for Mango. He's also gaining the +1 missile attack upgrade, and that's really important. He needs that missile attack upgrade to continue trading well against Ryung, who's actually already getting his 2-2 mech upgrades down. Sensor Tower also going to be utilized here. This gives a bit of advance warning over where and when Mutalisks start trying to come in. And so with all of that, Ryung has got a good safety net and a good amount of information to hopefully contend with any further pressure. These Vikings backing on out. A head-to-head fight, the Mutalisks will win, but with the aid of the missile turrets, the Vikings should be safe. Now this is a really cool move coming down now from Mango. Swarm hosts are a great decision in this situation. A meching Terran has one main vulnerability, and that's that it's incredibly immobile. Swarm hosts are also immobile, but they're very good at sieging up a position. So if we see Ryung continue to try and turtle, continue to try and build up a sizable force like most Terran players will do when they're going mech, Swarm hosts can actually start sieging into that line for free, and anything they pick off is going to be very good. A lot of siege tanks can start to stop locusts, but the locusts are very overpowering even to a siege line. So for the moment, Ryung standing in more command centers, getting up a solid economy. He's currently sitting at 178 supply compared to the 174 of Mango. But this is another nice trick, adding in a few additional starports now. Going to be going up to 4 starports, which means that Ravens can start hitting the field as well. A really strong late game composition from Ryung. Mango able to trade against a couple of those Hellbats, picking them off, keeping his Roaches alive, but these Roaches aren't going to fare too well when that many Thors come over. Roaches are good against Thors, but not when their numbers are equal. The Mutalisk flock doing a good job picking off a couple of Hellbats there. One is able to survive, so could come in and cause some problems later. But with the spine, shouldn't have too much to worry about. Ryung now scanning a lot throughout the front, trying to see where this army is, but the army actually coming in for an attack now. There's 4 missile turrets, that's going to be a bit too much to deal with, especially with the Vikings coming over. So the Mutalisks retreating out towards the north. Meanwhile, over on the left hand side, the Locusts starting to move forward, just making sure nothing sneaky happens. A second sensor tower has now come in for Ryung, again giving him more advance notice if and when harassment, Mutalisks or Zergling one-bys try and come through. The command center getting ready to land. The creep has to recede back first. It's not fully spread out like if it was an overlord generating creep though, and as such it won't take the full minute to get back. These swarm hosts edging forward quite slowly, just trying to get in a nice position. We've got a lot of static defense now coming down. The Thors, the tanks, just vying for position, trying to find a nice way to go through. Creep spread slowly going back, and Ryung should be able to now secure up his 5th base. He's still got a 6th, 7th and 8th command center now done, so he's got a huge amount of bases potential. His mech army looking very strong, but he's actually getting a lot of damage in the main base from this Mutalisk flock. 16 of them still on the field, a couple of tech labs getting sniped off, but with so many Vikings coming back, 11 of them, these Mutalisks don't have any choice but to retreat. The important thing about why these Vikings are doing really well is their upgrades. They share upgrades with Terran ground mech now, so they're actually at 2-2, which means that they're very potent, they can soak up quite a bit of damage, and the Mutalisks, well, they're only at 1-0, so upgrade lead for the Vikings. These lone swarm hosts being a little bit irritating, up by the 5th base of Ryung. They are going to get taken out by the use of a scanner with a good number of Ravens. There's mobile detection as well. But there's so many more locusts flooding through, and this is where we start to see actually a couple of tanks get taken down. They're sieging up, but at the same time Mutalisks and Roaches are preparing to move in towards this 3rd base. There's a decent number of missile turrets though, so the Mutas are going to have to be careful. They can actually engage straight up against missile turrets to a certain extent, but there's just so many there. We've also got a 5th base coming down now from Mango, so he's looking to take extra expansions wherever he can. Trying to keep on level pegging with Ryung's economy. Ryung though, He's got a good siege line here. By the way, these locusts are coming through, just trickling by as the swarm hosts aren't synced up. It allows these tanks to just slowly wear through them. The Raven count as well now is getting pretty substantial, going up to 9 Ravens. Ryung nearly maxed out. The Zerg player is pretty much maxed out now. Mango needs to look about kind of losing a bit of unneeded supply, but unfortunately he doesn't really have much to lose because he's got swarm hosts and mutalisks. Doesn't really want to be losing either of those. If there were some roaches, he'd definitely be trying to find a way to get rid of them. A lot of mutas though are taking some damage. They run straight through, heading towards a natural base which is only guarded by a single missile turret. These mutas should be able to get a good number of kills, but in a strange sort of way, getting SCV kills is beneficial to Ryung at the moment. He is actually producing 7 SCVs at a time, which is something I don't think I've ever seen before from a Terran player. But the reason it's beneficial him losing a couple is because with so many command centers down, he's up to 6 orbitals, and I think he's got 3 more command centers coming in. That's a number of mules, and having so many mules means that you can lose a couple of SCVs. But oh my goodness, Ryung, he's becoming a hero. He's making battle cruisers. This makes me a very happy caster. I was hoping we'd be seeing some cool things like this. The Skytoss army, the Sky Terran army, is doing a fantastically good job of just building up its mass. And that's going to make it very challenging to utilize mutalisks alone against them. And of course, those swarm hosts, completely ineffective and not going to do any damage up against air units. The mutalisks though, they're coming in. Good number of PDDs though getting thrown down by those ravens, stopping any further damage from the mutalisks. The tanks and Thors edging forward, more command centers still coming through for the Terran player. Mango, he secured up his 5th base and he's still trying to find a good avenue to come and attack with these mutalisks. If he can find somewhere he can get in that isn't guarded by like a gazillion missile turrets, he should be in with a good chance. But unfortunately for him, there are just billions of missile turrets everywhere. Gonna try and trade straight up against them. A Raven gets sniped down there, which is a nice pick off. Quite a few mutas are dying though, unfortunately, in this straight up trade. They do have +2 attack, so they're trading alright. But now with the PDDs coming down, those mutalisks are basically flying blanks, and as such, are forced to retreat out. Ryung now, playing a daring game, expanding to the top right-hand base. He's also got a good number of tanks in the center here, able to start sieging up into the 5th hatchery of Mango. There's also a huge number of Vikings and Ravens here. The Banshees going to do the finishing blows. Ryung is up to a grand total now of 6 orbital commands, 3 additional command centers on top of that, while building yet more. So he's now actually up to 4 additional command centers. Seeker missiles though, they're getting ready to go through. They should get some nice connections. Massive hit there on a lot of the mutalisks. And as such, they're being forced to retreat back. The Mutaflock is still at 18. Mango, only 20 supply down from max. But these Seeker missiles are where things are looking good. A lot of swarm hosts going to start dying here. Big hit, and that was a lot of damage. Queen's trying to try and chip away at some of these units, but auto turrets getting thrown down onto the ground. Locust sieging up to this base in the top right. The planetary fortress doesn't have anything to repair it, so it will fall if another wave manages to get through. But unfortunately, for Mango, there's just so many units here. And Ryung is successful in taking this first map of this best of 3 clan war, and Axiom Esports starts off on a good foot.